Hey, everybody, welcome to this episode of Think Business Live. Looking forward to talking with Rob Chen. Rob is an entrepreneur and takes an innovative approach to redefining how New Yorkers experience food. In 2020, he founded EatMise, a food delivery platform bringing fully prepped ingredients straight from New Yorkers' favorite restaurants to their door. Well, this is going to be a cool interview because you come from a finance world. And then you did this in 2020. So this will be cool. We're going to dive in. But before we dive in, I'm a business coach, Rob. I work with people all over the globe who are successful in stock. I get them unstuck. And so as an owner, founder, CEO of your business, where's been a recent stuck for you? And how did you get unstuck?
Good question, John. First of all, thanks for having me. We're stuck everywhere, man, all the time. I would say most recently, I mean, just diving into kind of on the business side was, taking a step back. One of the really hard things for us is we're a three-sided marketplace. So it's kind of like with limited capital, how do you balance every side? How do you get restaurants with our customers and vice versa? So our most recent stuck was, okay, well, how do we find in this interest rate environment, in this capital raising environment, a very efficient way to grow on their customer side? So that's something that we've been struggling. A lot of companies struggle with, and we got unstuck by being creative. And instead of using the traditional, call it, meta ads, digital advertising, and direct mail and things like that, we basically created an ambassador program, and that we had people going out and kind of going to residential buildings, gyms, our own kind of restaurants as well to kind of grow. So not sure if that answers your question, but that's something that we were stuck.
It absolutely does. It's interesting.
Yeah.
So I'm a business coach. I work with solopreneurs to Fortune companies and everything in between. But I recently launched a business called Launch 3, which is a coaching platform for only 18 to 26-year-olds. And the way we grow it is we have ambassadors at universities growing and getting people signed up. They go into their business schools, fraternities, sororities, et cetera. And then we have people who have graduated who reach out to their networks. They set up a call with myself and my business partner, and then we get them and help close them. And so the ambassador program is really, really great. And we had been beta testing ours, and now we're going to be expanding it because we find, and the ambassadors find, and the people who are joining find that there's a lot of efficiency in it. And so it's great. I think an ambassador program makes total sense. So that's great. Thanks for sharing that. All right. I want to talk about your business. So you find it in 2020. So in 2020, in March, kind of mid-March 2020, when the world and COVID hit, I was giving a workshop on March 12th, I think it was, to about 50 people, which at the time, in hindsight, was a super spreader because the world shut down a couple of days later. And everyone had to change and pivot their business. So here you are, you're in the financial world. And so I always love talking to people on the podcast who started something in 2020 because I think it was a great time to start a business. And so what was the story for you?
Yeah. Great question. I mean, really in 2020, I would say there's kind of two aspects that really spurred me to do this. I think one is just on a personal level. I think a lot of people during that time frame was like, hey, the world's on fire. Like, who am I? What am I doing? Like what matters? Right. And I think for me, there was always, again, that I mentioned to it before this call, but that entrepreneurial itch for me where I had kind of spent a decade in finance, learning about businesses, learning what works, what doesn't at a macro level, but always really wanted to kind of be part of that creation part, right? And I think that was one where, honestly, during the pandemic, it spurred me to do that. Secondarily, I think I really wanted to contribute in my own way. And at that point in time, a lot of restaurants are suffering, right? Where, it's no secret with everything that was going on. And there are a lot of, I would say, kind of short-term solutions like the government and PPP loans and things like that. But I really wanted to put on my business hat and think, okay, well, how do we help them as an industry create a longer-term sustainable solution? And at that point in time, it was, hey, there's this huge addressable market in the cooking at home grocery vertical that, that they don't traditionally have access to. can we triple their addressable market by being creative with their kind of operational setup, and kind of have low cost, high revenue. So that was
Yeah.
the two pronged kind of approach there, and obviously also just from a fundraising environment, and I felt like the pandemic was perfect time because there can be long term kind of consumer behavior changes during such
Yeah.
a big, so a lot of kind of things that spurred me to get to that point.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, and I agree with you. This restaurants here, I'm in Detroit, reinvented themselves in
Yeah.
this type of way. You could go and you could pick up the food and make it at your house, and but why food? I'm curious why food. You know, everybody's kind of got their own little niche that they're drawn to, that they're in alignment with. Why food for you?
Yeah, yeah. Food's always been, and especially with restaurants, have always been a kind of core part of. First of all, in New York, I've been in New York for 18, 19 years now, and I've always just fed myself through restaurants. I think we're very
Yeah,
spoiled here in New York, and New York, you have
yeah,
every type
they
of
have the
cuisine
best.
and small.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's the best. Yeah,
yeah. So I think that one aspect, also just thinking like, at least for me, a lot of the most kind of important and pivotal moments in my life when I think about community and family and friends, a lot of those occurred at restaurants. So restaurants have always been a very special part of who I am. And also I grew up in Taiwan, and Taiwan food is amazing. Also very kind of restaurant focused. So food and especially restaurants have always just played had a special place in my heart.
yeah,
So, and I always, the thing also that I always struggle with is even before the pandemic, restaurants had such thin margin profiles that when you think about their actual value add to our society, it just wasn't commensurate, and something seemed off for me. And I really wanted to think
right.
about what could make sense there.
Yeah, right. The margins are crazy thin when it comes to a restaurant, and
Yeah,
turning profit can take anywhere between 3 to 5 years for a restaurant. So,
yeah,
so
yeah.
kudos to you for kind of helping them out. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about, you're in the finance world, right? So you're in the finance world. You're president of Mid Ocean Credit Partners. You're with all of these different companies, capital, finance. Um, that's a big shift. That's a big reinvention of yourself. And so I think a lot of people, and I think and like you said earlier, in 2020 it began to spark it. But I think people are always looking to reinvent themselves. I know I've continually reinvented myself. I had an internet company. I sold that, got into commercial real estate, did that for 13 years. Now I'm a business coach. I love reinvention. It sounds like you do too. And so, what was the path of, like, when you were at where you were in the financial world? How did
Mhm.
you plan to reinvent yourself? And then how did you have the courage to reinvent yourself?
Hmm. Good question. I think taking a step back, and it sounds like you align with this philosophy as well. I look at um, the world and what we can do in our careers is a big kind of a lot of white space. And what I mean by that is ultimately the experience and knowledge that we have, and let's say that I had in finance, or I built a company and all of that. I think ultimately they're all synergistic,
Yeah.
and as long as being on the operating side, building a company, in theory, I really believe would make me a better investor. I think being a good investor helps me think about kind of what matters in terms of building a business. And I think for you, being a business coach, you're able to see kind of the human side of being an exec and what matters, and then so on an ebook. So I think it's important to remember that having a breadth of experience, I actually think, especially in today's world, where a lot of things more that are more specialized are more automated, there's AI and things like that. I feel like it's important to have that kind of breadth of knowledge and experience, because ultimately that's actually, from my perspective, going to be what's going to be valuable.
Yeah.
I think that's one. I think the courage side, I think, again, I actually think the pandemic put things into perspective where, again, it's like, what does matter? What do you want to spend your time doing? And it kind of makes you realize that life is short.
Yeah.
And I think the pandemic was a part of that as well.
Yeah. Thanks for that. I want to go back to something you said earlier about community and the kitchen table and growing up in Taiwan and restaurants. Community is a big piece of business right now. I think more so than ever before, and evolving more in that direction. And so, how do you kind of infuse community into your company?
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, great question. I think one of the things that we're super excited about is, taking a step back, when I look at a lot of restaurant aggregators, especially when it comes to delivery, whether it's the DoorDashes or the Uber Eats or the Grubhubs, ultimately from my perspective, they're delivery companies, they're logistics companies, right? They started from, they delivered restaurant meals and groceries and alcohol and vertical, and that's their business, right? And I think there's a dearth of this kind of restaurant partnership and aggregator where the focus is really on food and on restaurants. And the reason I say that is because we're doing a lot of really exciting things with our restaurants, for instance, where we're doing community events, right? So one example is one of our partner restaurants, Ofarista. We had some content creators and some customers go and learn from their chef to cook, and then it becomes a win-win
Yeah,
where we can help them market, right? We can help the restaurants market, but we also create kind of a community event. Another one was at Buddha Bar, one of our restaurants, where we did a community event for New York Fashion Week. And it's just really exciting, the things that we can do on a local basis that becomes a win-win, where we can get a community together, we can help the restaurants market them, we can get a community of whether it's content creators or just New Yorkers, et cetera, getting more in touch with the restaurant, and then
yeah.
we get our name out there as well. So there's a lot of really cool kind of synergistic community events that we've been doing. So that's one aspect that we've been pretty excited about.
That's cool. That's cool. And so, is that how you're differentiating yourself from the Grubhubs and getting more mind share with the DoorDashes, the Grubhubs, et cetera? Kind of really, kind of differentiating yourself, niching things like this, and versus just getting the Coney Island or the McDonald's from down the street.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of a lot of ways we're different. I think one is um, what we've learned, especially on the restaurant side, is we're very much more of a partner than we are in terms of like just another because a lot of these guys, I think, how many restaurants can I get on the platform, right? One sales guy, one account exec may have 100 or 150 restaurants that they cover. For us, because when we onboard their dishes, it's a more intimate process where we talk with the chef, we understand the recipe, we create a recipe card, we get sign off from them. It's a more intimate connection. I think that lends us to be able to do, like I said, like more community events and more, working together. Hey, how can we create a win-win where the restaurants are a distribution channel for us, right? We tap into their network and we reap the benefits, but they also reap the benefits by selling more kind of off-peak hour
Yeah.
kits. So I think just the nature of our product and the nature we set this of how we set these relationships up, it's given us the opportunity to do a lot more types of cool kind of partnership community types of
Yeah.
things. Yeah,
Sounds cool. Sounds really cool. Have you watched The Bear on Hulu?
I have. I'm not done yet, but I've watched. Yeah,
It's so good.
I've heard it's so
Season
good.
two, season two is so good. Yes, chef. Yes, chef.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
It's the greatest.
Yeah.
You're an entrepreneur, and so I want to do a quick mini business course. So here we go. All right. 3 things every entrepreneur needs to be thinking about. Number 1.
Stockdale paradox. I don't know if you know that, but
Yeah, tell everybody what it is.
it's basically you have to have faith that everything's gonna go okay, but also face the harsh realities of what's not working. And
Yeah.
the reason I say that, especially when you're an entrepreneur and you're kind of going into this unknown territory, you have to have faith that dots will connect. Otherwise, it's very easy to lose faith.
Yeah, it's great. All right, good. Number 2.
Number 2, the right team is everything, I think.
Yeah.
Right. I think ultimately you can do as much as you can, but if you want to start growing it, you want to scale, you have to have the right team. And because they're extensions of who you are. And I think creating the right team culture is imperative.
Yeah. I agree. And I would also say only hire great, right? If you If you're 99% sure, but your gut's telling you no, don't hire that person. Number 3.
I think you have to really ask yourself why you want to build a business and what's your motivation. Because if it has to, and I honestly think it has to be because you love it. Because if it's for external factors like money, fame, success, like you're going to inevitably hit speed bumps that are it's not really worth it. Or there's kind of I think you have to love the everyday process. You have to love it in order to be able to really get past those inevitable, horrible speed bumps or mountains.
It's great.
Those are just 3 that I came by, hopefully.
No, those are great. Rob Chen, CEO and founder of EatMise. That was a good mini business course. All right. Okay, now back to our scheduled programming. So talk a little bit about somebody who in 2020 had an idea but didn't have the courage to plant the seed and do it. Whether it's a part-time thing, whether it's a full-time thing, how can they tap into their courage and do something that's kind of in them but they haven't gotten to yet?
Yeah. It's a good question. I think I think one thing is it doesn't have to be so dramatic, meaning that you can explore these passions and to your point, on a part-time basis, right? It doesn't have to be like I have to quit my job. It has to be some dramatic change. I think it's important to just follow your heart, not to be so but follow your heart, do what you love, and kind of explore it and see how things unfold. I think that's one. I think 2 is why not? I think it's if you enjoy it, you never know where things are going to go. And I think the fear of missed opportunities, at least from my perspective, is more scary than fear of failure or fear of, right. So.
Amen to that. Amen to that. I just posted something, one of my favorite quotes. I want to get it right, but I love the quote by Jim Rohn. And it was discipline weighs ounces, regret weighs tons. It is.
Say that again. It's discipline. Say that again.
Discipline weighs ounces, regret weighs tons. It's a good one, isn't it? Yeah.
Love that.
It's a good one. All right, let's do a quick speed round. A book or a TED Talk that's had the biggest impact on you?
Oof. The one that comes to mind is Innovator's Dilemma. Just because it gave me kind of the courage with a lot of fact pattern to say, like, why can't I just do it? Why can't I do it? And it makes sense why startups should exist and why they can beat incumbents. And that was one book that came to mind when you said that.
Right. Best piece of wisdom you've ever received?
I have to say it's what I said in the beginning, the whole, hey, believing the dots are going to connect, believing, the Stockdale paradox, where you really have to have faith and see kind of how things are difficult, and just you have to have faith. Because this is very much an emotional journey that you go on.
Finish this sentence. One way everybody can infuse an ambassador program into their company is?
Just trying it at small scale.
Try it small. Right, I agree. Try it small. You work out the kinks, and then you get it to be bigger. It's what we did with our launch-3.com company. I'll tell you more about it. Stay on after. I'd love for you to be a mentor. We have a mentor hub, so the members can reach out to all these people. I'd love for you to be in it.
That'd be great. That'd be great.
Yeah, stay on. I'll say after. All right. Tell everybody who your ideal clients are, where they can connect with you, learn more about you, Rob.
Feel free to email me, rob@eatmise.com. Ideal clients. I mean, we on the restaurant side, I guess we have really, really great restaurants from New York that different cuisines and that are really popular, really local restaurants that people love. On the customer side, anyone that loves great food that doesn't always have the time to cook, but loves that kind of fresh out of the kitchen taste, that's sick of delivery fees, but and usually that's especially in New York, busy working professionals, busy moms, and things like that. So hopefully that hits a lot of people. But yeah.
Good. All right, good. I love it. I think community appreciate you listening to this podcast. And Rob, I appreciate you being on it. I love, as a business coach, I work with people who are successful but stuck. I get them unstuck. What I love about the podcast is I get to have guests like you to help get people unstuck. One thing I'll share, I like to extract at least one thing, which is one, have the courage, I think, community, and two, think of clever ways and creative ways to grow your business. And an ambassador program can be a great way. Rob, thanks so much. Appreciate you. Think community, you can reach me at johndwoskin.com. Thanks for listening. Rob, thanks for your time. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much, John. It's a pleasure.